It is entirely possible for a Black girl to be loved. See me, Black as I am, and call me beautiful. No revolution necessary, no brave needed, just loving me. It is not unusual to love me, Black as I am. It is not because I'm so strong, so exotic, so walk on the wild side. What side? See my skin. It's not chocolate or coffee or caramel. It is inedible. It is nothing to see with colonizers' eyes, nothing to trap with pity or praise, nothing to bruise, to make purple with your power. My skin is soft like anything soft. It is a reflection of God. It is a heavenly mirror. Don't you see that? You're there too. Black as I am, I can shine anything back. Even the sun wants to cling to me. Okay, so we are waiting for our director, Jerald Crook, to solve some of his internet issues. Are you back with us, Jerald?
I think, maybe.
Yes, you
Maybe.
are. Yay.
Okay. Get back, devil. Look, we're going to keep going. Um, thank you for hopping in. So, I'm not sure where I left off, but I was welcoming everyone and letting everyone know that this is Higher Ground Society. It's a fresh nonprofit organization based in Alabama, and we are seeking to forge community and understanding by engaging in the arts and the humanities. And tonight is the first ever Chat for Change event, which is a virtual conversation series. And where does that come from? Everybody's doing these kinds of things now. And this is something that's been on my mind in my heart really, for a very long time, because there's just so much going on in the world that it seems that we're becoming more and more disconnected despite all the technology that we have available to us to connect. I wanted to model how to have deep, important conversations about tough topics. And so that's what we're chatting about, and that's what we're chatting and hopefully changing this trajectory of disconnecting and spreading out. And so the first series is based on love. I'm all about love, y'all. Love over everything. Ow, ow. And the first installment of this series is we're going to be focusing on love of self-love. And I'm hoping that you guys will stick around with us for about the next 45, 50 minutes, because it's going to be a great conversation. I have some incredible people joining me tonight to discuss this topic. But before I introduce those folks, I want to let everyone know this is a conversation. So we want you to talk with us. We will be looking at the chat section of this video, and we will be looking to see what you're saying, and we'll try to respond to you if you have any specific questions or comments. And in doing so, you actually enter yourself to win a giveaway. We have two really cool gifts that we're going to give away at the end of this evening. So please shout us out. Of where you're coming in, where you are watching from, excuse me. So jumping into the introductions, you've already met this person because they opened us up tonight and they're hanging out with me now. Miss Ashley Jones. Ashley M. Jones. She holds an MFA, Master of Fine Arts in Poetry from Florida International University, and she is the author of Magic City Gospel and Dark Thing. Magic City Gospel came out in 2017. Dark Thing came out in 2019, and she has a new collection coming out this year called Reparations Now. We're very, very excited about that. Her poetry has earned several awards, including the Rona Jaffa Foundation's Writers Award, the Silver Medal and the Independent Publishers Book Award, the Lena Miles Weaver Todd Prize for Poetry, a literature fellowship from the Alabama State Council on the Arts. Our friend, hey y'all. The Lucille Clifton Poetry Prize, and the Lucille Clifton Legacy Award. And she was also a finalist for the Ruth Lily Dorothy Sargent Rosenberg Fellowship in 2020, so last year. She's busy. She's booked and busy. I love teasing her. She's got something going on and doing some incredible work. Her poems and essays appear in or are forthcoming at CNN, Poetry Magazine, the Oxford American, Origins Journal, The Quarry by Split This Rock, and Obsidian, and many others. So I'm sure just do a quick Google of my girl and you can find all of her work and goings on. She currently teaches at the Alabama School of Fine Arts. She co-directs PEN, P-E-N, Birmingham. She is the founding director of Magic City Poetry Festival. And most recently, she was selected as a guest editor for Poetry Magazine. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining and for opening us up with that beautiful poem. I'm going to bring on our next person, Jerusalem Brown. Jerusalem.
Hi.
She is an independent contractor and business owner of Monarch Emotional Self-Mastery, LLC. She loves literature, art, music, design, and psychology. Her passion for providing mental health services in underserved communities influenced her to create Mental Health Monarch. Mental Health Monarch is an online psychoeducational resource that appeals to the needs of those suffering from mental and emotional abuse, emotional neglect, domestic and intimate partner violence, adults affected by adverse childhood experiences and childhood trauma, and more importantly, parents, or ACMIP. That's one of the most understudied populations of mental health. Jerusalem wants us to know, so be mindful of that. While Mental Health Monarchs is in the beginning stages, Jerusalem envisions championing future community development initiatives and psychological studies geared towards the unique challenges of adult children of mentally ill parents. Such studies will provide much needed data to help improve psychotherapeutic interventions for both adolescent and adult populations, helping to end, or at least attempt to end, childhood trauma across generations. So that's what Jerusalem is all about, and I'm so happy to have her here, providing a humanities perspective. Thank you, Jerusalem, for joining. And our last guest, but certainly not the least, you guys should be familiar with him. If you're following along on the Higher Ground Society podcast, G.I. Magus was the guest on for November's conversation. But just in case you missed that, you can go back and check it out. He's from Birmingham, and he is a self-proclaimed reality rapper. He uses his passion for community and skill with words to create art that speaks topics that are relevant to the community and bring awareness to social issues. His most recent release, Versus the World, and that's Versus VERSES, so he's got wordplay going on there. Versus the World. It was selected by soulinstereo.com as one of the top 50 albums of 2020. And AL.com selected him as one of 2019's Alabama artists to watch. You can find him and his work at githeartist.com. Thank you, GI, for joining. All right, so I got all my friends here, and we're just gonna dive into conversation. But before we go too far, Ashley, I wanted to kind of start with you. And tell us more about this poem that you share with us to begin with.
Yeah, so this poem is one that's actually pretty recent. I wrote it late last year. And the inspiration for it really was just me absorbing all of this anti-Blackness and specifically anti-Black womanness, which exists in our society and which has existed in America, at least since the beginning, of America. And so I was really getting tired of taking in all of these negative messages, subliminal or overt. And I've also had struggles with self-esteem and self-love throughout my life. And I'm on a self-love journey right now. And I'm in a stage where I just love myself so much that I can't tolerate anyone treating me badly. And at the time, I was sort of dealing with a person. We're not going to get into that. But that person, something about what happened with that person made me realize, wait a minute, everything that I've been told is a lie. It is totally possible for me as a Black woman, as an educated Black woman, as a dark-skinned Black woman, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to be loved. First, by myself, I can love me, and anyone else can love me. I'm not unlovable. I am not this detestable thing that America has wanted me to believe. So that's kind of where it came from.
And I can't tell you how on time that is. I watched you kind of curate these poems for these kinds of events before, and you are amazing at it. And thank you for sharing that testimony or your thought process behind that. It's very, very timely. So I don't know if I said this before amidst all the buffering issues that we were having, but tonight's topic and within the Love Out Loud series is self-love. We're focusing on the love of self. That's why I asked Ashley to bring us a poem from that realm. And we're all going to talk about this and bring our own experiences and our own insight from the arts, music, and the world of psychology. And so the first question that we're going to kind of just dive into, anybody can jump in. What is self-love to you?
I guess, do y'all mind if I start off?
Go ahead.
So self-love to me is an interesting thing. It's something that I didn't really understand as a young person because I definitely, as I said, I struggled with self-esteem issues, and I didn't really know what it even meant to like myself, much less to love myself. But now it just really means a deep respect for myself, and that kind of goes out into everything that I do. So in my friendships, in my family relationships, just in everything has to come back to respecting myself and treating myself with love. And for me, it also goes back to God. If God made me and God loves me, then I have to also love me. If God found me lovable, then I must be that.
Absolutely. Yes. Anybody else? Jerusalem, you're on mute.
Okay. So in my practice, I've had to learn how to do unconditional positive regard for all of my clients. And that kind of sparked something in me like, well, why don't I do this with myself? Like, and so it's easier for us to kind of empathize with other people and maybe what they're going through, but we may have that critical voice in our head that makes us talk to ourselves in a certain way that's like, no. Because if you heard yourself talking to your child or your friend or your mom or whoever you care about in the way that you talk to yourself, it's kind of like you wouldn't have it. You wouldn't have it. So that unconditional positive regard just kind of taught me to, reflect back and look at myself like, okay, I wasn't mirrored or I didn't get this, in situations where I was growing up, I may have had everything I needed as far as like physically, like food, clothes, shelter, but emotionally I was just deprived. And so that unconditional positive regard is like mirroring back to someone that you're okay, you are fine just the way you are, whatever you're going through, just however you talk to yourself. That's very important. And so that's my little 2 cents.
Sure. How about you, GI? Thank you, Drew.
I think for me, it's about a kind of relentless commitment to yourself. And what I mean by that is like life is just like this journey, right? Like I don't want to be like super deep philosophical, but life is definitely like a journey, right? And every day, you have to figure out how to take the next step in that journey. But the self-love portion comes in like in two parts for me is the relentless commitment to correction, right? Like understanding that you're not going to be perfect, but you figure out a way to better yourself consistently, not just kind of resting in yesterday's accomplishments, but like constantly trying to improve myself. But then also a relentless commitment to forgiveness, right? And saying to yourself, it's all right that you don't get it all right. Like the steps that you take in the journey to try to better yourself. Sometimes you're going to take missteps, but you can be okay with the missteps as long as you're okay with making progress. So I think it's a relentless commitment to both of those things, just betterment on a consistent basis, and then the forgiveness for yourself for not living up to whatever standard that you feel like you've set for yourself, right? Not societal standards. And I think that's a big part of not getting yourself wrapped up in what other people have deemed as appropriate for your life, but really just kind of understanding who it is that you want to be and striving to be that person every day. Again, just a relentless commitment to yourself in that way.
So you said
Absolutely.
you weren't going to be deep and philosophical, and yet that was a beautiful answer.
Thank you. I didn't try to, is what I'm saying though. So
This comes naturally.
apparently, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
love
and
that word commitment. It's a great word. I definitely have been thinking about that word a lot in recent years. Being someone who is 30 years old now, and I do live in the South, and people are always asking you, like, where's your husband? Where's your kids? All this kind of stuff. And what you said is so true. I decided I'm committed to me first. And the life that I'm going to live may not look like what other people have deemed as the life I'm supposed to live. But because I have committed to myself, like you said, every day I'm striving toward that thing, and I'm forgiving myself too. I love that word forgiveness. That's a huge part of it.
Yeah, that's something that it took me a long time. That the forgiveness part was the part that I think took me the longest to try to not even conquer, because I haven't conquered it, but just grasp the idea of forgiving myself for whatever shortcomings I feel like I've had in my life, and then realizing that just because I feel like that's an imperfection about myself doesn't mean that other people, like, stop projecting your own insecurities onto other people's perceptions of you, right? Like a lot of times we say to ourselves, I've fallen short in this area. Like, so for me specifically, I'll take it out of the ambiguity and just talk about me. For a long time, I felt as if I didn't make enough money to deserve happiness in relationships, right? And because I was not in a space to be able to forgive myself for my shortcomings financially, I didn't allow people to love me. And what I realized, it wasn't necessarily that people were incapable of loving me in my I ain't got no money self. It was I didn't like myself that way, right? And so I beat myself up constantly. I never forgave myself for any mistake that I made financially, any mistake that I made in ambition or whatever it is. And I had to learn how to just be okay with accepting love from other people. But it started with me just figuring out, like, it's okay, dude. Just get it right tomorrow, right? And but again, just that relentless commitment to just look yourself in the mirror and be like, all right, you're good. We're good. Just keep moving.
Word. That self-talk, I'm saying Cicely Williams is saying self-love is giving myself grace, grace to grow, grace to make mistakes, grace to know it's okay. If I don't have it all together right now, grace. And honestly, I did not learn grace until I was kind of going through my clinicals to practice psychology. And there was this one particular lady, and oddly, her name was Grace. She showed me so much grace that I had never experienced before. Because before, it's kind of like you can't make mistakes, you know, go hard, whatever. Like you just internalized a lot of that stuff. And, you know, when I was feeling a certain way, she showed me real grace. And I had no idea how impactful that was to me, because it really made me emotional. And I just kind of like, whoa, okay. So this is part of what feeling loved feels like. I've never received that part of it. So that grace is something important. So Cicely Williams, yeah, I appreciate that.
No, that's a just a dope thing that you said in regard to that. Like, I think a lot of times we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to figure it out ourselves. And but you talked about like somebody else really just kickstarted that feeling within you to like kind of really understand. Like you might even feel like, man, I've been loving myself a lot, but then you
Mm-hmm.
experience some very genuine love. And you're just like, wow, you know what? I haven't even been loving me this way, right? And so like I need to
Yeah.
step up the effort that I give to myself and the way that I love me, because it's really
Yeah.
hard to reciprocate that love, right? It's hard to give that to someone else when you haven't learned how to give it to yourself, when you haven't learned how to, and it won't always come for yourself first. Like I want to like destroy the idea that in order for you to love somebody else, you got to love yourself first. Like
Man.
that's not a real thing. Like that's not like that's
Oh
some
man.
people don't experience love with like some people give so much love on such a consistent basis that they never give themselves. Some people give grace to other people that they never give themselves. And that's not a
Mm-hmm.
thing that you have to learn how to love yourself before you can love someone else. I will
Mm-hmm.
say you have to experience love in order to know how to love yourself, though. Whether you initiate that love or
Definitely.
someone else gives it to you, you're never going to know the genuineness of it until someone shows you. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. No, that's different. That's real different. Okay.
Yes.
So,
In
anyway,
my field, that's called being mirrored properly, especially when you grow up. Most of my work involves like trauma and, you know, things in our childhood that we didn't really quite resolve, but we grow up and we still try to have relationships and, you know, just live life. And we still got this like thing in us, but um, just that being able to actually see or be someone mirroring back to you your worth and your value, and you know that they love you, like what that actually means, just grace, that's a lot. And until you actually see that, yes, you can act that out with other people because you don't want them to feel like you felt when you were younger. Like that was my whole thing. Like I would never say this to another person because I know what that feels like. I won't be that person. But at the same time, I don't actually know fully 100% what it feels like to be cared for, to be savored, to be, you know, given grace that way. And so I definitely feel that.
Concept of self love, especially in this time of social isolation, social distancing. A lot of people are probably had their foundations shaken and like, oh, like I've been part of these networks and these things, or I get this, this love from other folks immediately, but now this has been cut off. So what do I do? So I think it's very good that we're reflecting on what this means now, particularly, so that we can continue to move forward throughout this really crazy situation of a pandemic, and we can do so healthily. So thank you all for laying that foundation down.
Right.
I also want to point, Asmund Bailey said something, self-love about is walking away from people or situations that are no longer having a positive impact on her life without feeling guilty. Sometimes love or loving yourself is subtracting something so that the positive or that the good stuff can flourish. So that's also, I mean, it's
Amen.
not always adding things to the pot to make it taste good. Sometimes you gotta, switch it up. You gotta water it down a little bit, like, so that's a good point.
Hold the pot together.
Yeah. Too much salt.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we laid a foundation down, and we've kind of talked about this, about how love. What question that I had written down was how love empowers us. self-love empowers us. But how I want to kind of flip it now, because we want to kind of pick things apart and do it due
Flip.
diligence. How might self-love hinder us?
Ooh. Should I go right now?
Sure, yeah, after you got you feeling your spirit. So yeah.
Personally, self-love, I wouldn't even call it a hindrance, but it definitely seems like that initially. Because once you start having boundaries, speaking those boundaries, enforcing those boundaries with other people, if they were used to you being too nice to this or to that, and you finally kind of like, no, that's not what I want to do. And you start changing yourself, you start putting up those boundaries, which that's a big part of self-love for me, boundaries. And so once you start putting those up, you sometimes kind of lose people, or they start acting up even more, or they challenge your boundaries. And you kind of, if you're not used to setting boundaries, you kind of like, you feel guilty, you feel weird. But hey, once you keep standing in it, sometimes those people fall away. Honestly, sometimes people fall. That was the profanity moment. They fall away. And you have to be okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Myrtle, I think, said the thing that I was gonna go for. I was gonna phrase it as vanity, but you get into a space of like vanity of like putting you like you love yourself so much you put yourself on this pedestal and everybody's beneath you because they haven't reached this ascension. I, I was gonna say I'm not gonna pick on people, but I need to just say what I was gonna say. Like, there's people who are like who always use these terms like, oh, I'm you need to learn how to vibrate higher, and I can't breathe
oh
down there
Lord.
with y'all, and they're all low vibrations, and like you place yourself in this space that makes you seem as if you're in such an elevated space.
Untouchable.
And I don't even know if that's love though. Like, so that's the thing about it. Like there is van, vainglory seems a lot like love just because it's puffed up, but it doesn't really have much beneath it. And those people tend to be super fragile, so like there's no fragility in love either. Like you tend to have enough toughness in you. But I will say, conversely, to kind of to the point that I made earlier about the point of like self-correction. Again, I'll talk very personally about myself. Like the thing that I struggle with most is I am very hard on myself, right? But it also makes me very hard on other people. It's like because I hold myself to such a high standard, then I therefore want to hold. It's like, well, I hold them to that standard as well, and that's not always fair, right? Because they might not have, they might not have been through a lot of the things that I've been through that allowed me to be tough in those spaces. So that love for self that allows me to push myself in that way sometimes has to be softened for other people, and you have to figure out how to have a balance between the way that you handle yourself and the way that you handle others, because it's not always going to need to be the same.
So patience. Having patience.
Gia, are you a Virgo?
Am I a Virgo? I am not a Virgo.
That sounds like a Virgo thing. Love my Virgo, but
I'm a
that's
Libra.
Okay. Well, that's my been my experience. I've had I dated a Virgo once, and they had this the very things you're talking about, these boundary situations, and not in. I don't think I was probably judged and just didn't realize it. They were very critical, and and it was very hard to reach those boundaries. We'll talk about this in the next session more deeply. But that's something that ego and the boundary not being able to. So I mean, it's okay to have boundaries. Let's reiterate that boundaries are a good thing, but when they're like concrete and impermeable, and you can't see through them, and you can't have this exchange of love and all these other things going in and out, then that's when it becomes an issue. So yeah, if we have gotten to the point where it's loving ourselves or loving our situations too much, then it kind of becomes an issue. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing.
Hello. Just from a mental health perspective, I definitely understand what you're saying, like just dealing with people in general. But I don't think there's ever an amount of too much self-love, because when we actually think about it, one of the I guess common I don't know whether to call it a meme or whatever, but if you feel like you have to, like, say I'm a lion, I'm this, I'm that, like, yes, it's self-love. That ain't it. That's not it. Like, you kind of, when you have a self-love and a self-appreciation, and you have unconditional positive regard for yourself, you kind of carry yourself in a way that you value yourself, but you don't devalue other people. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, mm, somebody is faking a funk right there. They got to be puffed up so much and, like, yeah, egotistical. That's not what self-love is. Like, I have room for you while I'm making room for me, like making myself a priority. But you're not beneath me, or I don't have to demean you for me to mean, like, that I love myself. Like, that's nah. I hope that makes sense.
No, it's all about being mindful. Yeah, Ashley.
I
Yeah.
was just gonna say, yeah, I also don't think there's ever a time when self-love can be called anything like egotisticalness, narcissism, whatever. Like, those people
Mhm.
who are that way don't actually love themselves as much as they might say that they do. Um,
Facts.
and I think if you truly do love yourself, or at least if you're on an authentic journey to doing that, you allow, there's room for loving other people and being in community with other people and being malleable and all of those things. I think
Mhm.
the only thing that self-love could hinder you from, or at least I'll speak for me, the only thing that self-love has hindered me from is relationships with people who are not there, or who, not to say that I'm vibrating higher. I'm just saying some people who hate themselves, you can't really interact with them the way that you would want to, they're not
Oh
really
Lord.
in the same way. They're on that, I'm going to put you down so you're like me, or I'm going to put you down so you feel small.
Bring you down some notches.
Exactly, because
Definitely.
they haven't learned, how to love themselves and let others shine also. It's not all about hogging, any sort of limelight. Me
Yeah.
loving myself, even though I am a Leo, does not mean that I'm always trying
Oh.
to be up in something. Me loving myself sometimes means, let me wake up early and go downstairs and do this or that so that my mom doesn't have to do it, or do this so that my sister doesn't have to do it, or I know my friend doesn't like, talking to strangers, so I'm going to be there because I know I can do it. I've done my work. I'm going to love them in that way. And that helps me, love myself too. So,
Mhm.
I think that's an important distinction though, for real, about like what love parades itself as, right? Like a lot of people think that their high opinion of themselves is akin to loving themselves, and that's not necessarily the same thing, right? Like you can flattery and love seem very similar, right? Like I can flatter you a lot and still not have love for you, right? I can buy you a bunch of nice things and still be abusive, right? Like there are
Oh,
things that parade themselves as love that we do to ourselves. Like that's just not even about an external thing. Like we can hype ourselves up with platitudes about the things that we love about ourselves and still hate ourselves at a very core level, just because we haven't learned to love the totality of ourselves. Again, very very much something that I've had to deal with personally, is just like, people see you in a certain light and you allow them to see that as much as possible, just because it helps to dim the other things that you don't want them to see. So it's like, okay, let's continue to push these things up in front of people, and I will continue to not work on these things over here. But that's a portion of yourself that you have to embrace and love, or otherwise you're going to be, there's a duality that's going to exist there, right? Because at some point in time, those other people aren't going to be there to that help to validate that thing that you love about yourself, and you're going to have to deal with that other portion of yourself, right? Because it's been waiting And there's something very dangerous about something that's been starved, right? Like it needs to come out at some point in time. And when you don't figure out how to nurture and feed that portion that you don't like about yourself and help it to grow, then it's going to come out in a very ugly way sometime later. And again, the lack of self-love for the totality of who you are allows you to parade as this person who's very, confident and da da da. But in actuality, there's some deeper things that have to be unearthed there. And then when you get into relationships, you can't hide from that stuff, right? Like there's nothing that allows you to hide from the trueness of yourself when you're in a serious relationship with another person, because they expose all of that because they're going to see it at some point in time. So I feel that that's one of the things it's like the poem that you did, Ashley, just talking about, appreciating, your complexion, appreciating the realness of who you are, despite society's standards for yourself. Someone may hear that and say, oh, I hate the people who disrespect a movement of Black empowerment as if it means the lessening of another. And it's not. Those two things. They're mutually exclusive ideas. I can love myself without hating you or trying to put you down. And I felt that very much when you were talking, when I was listening to the poem.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I feel the same way. Nothing frustrates me more than when I say, I love Black women. I love Black people. And people are like, well, actually, what about, well, no. I didn't say, did I ever say that I hated anybody else? That's not what I said. I'm saying right now who I love, who I'm trying to give love to in this moment.
Because that's silly. Like, I love my wife. Does that mean I hate every other woman? No, I just happen, am I not allowed to love my wife without hating every other woman that exists? No, that's silly. I love myself. Does that mean I hate you? No.
Yeah. I want to, I guess, double back on something you said. Basically, if you are just trying to receive like validation from outside just from other people, or preserving like your image or like whatever you think you're supposed to be with other people, I think self-love is also challenging yourself and like confronting some of those things where, like, when we do get in relationships, we do feel that sting of like, if we get in an argument or something happens and we're like, why did that bother me so much? And you're not really cognizantly like understanding like what is happening with me. So just confronting some of those things, it may go way back, but being able to self-validate and like cheer yourself on, like, hey, well, you seem like you're a little jealous right now for whatever reason. Like, why? Do you not feel good enough? Like, what? Like really being honest with yourself and like confronting those things and not being afraid of it, when it shows up, is very important. And it's also difficult, but hey, if you want to move past like just doing the norm and doing like relationships and everything else like everybody else does, you have to confront yourself and like, what am I actually doing right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's kind of along the same vein, but I want to get y'all's opinion because Ashley really brought it up to me in my head. But what are some of the things that you guys do in particular to kind of reflect self-love in your life? For me, I have a really good friend who reminds me to be healthy, like literally like eat well, which is a form of self-love. Like that's a good way for me to know how I love myself is whenever I sit down or I stand up rather, and actually go into the kitchen and make a nice meal. And I sit down, I'm eating, and I was like, ooh, I love, like, wow, I really love you for making this. Like, it's, and I can, that's one of the, so I don't know what that means about me in food, but that's one of the moments where I really know I love myself. So that's one thing. What are some things that you guys do to love on yourself?
Can I just jump in?
Sure, yeah.
I love to read. I love to take courses. I love just self-improvement. Some things I feel personally like, about I want to improve on those things. I take myself out sometimes, sometimes people don't know where I am. I'm just doing me, and I'm also introverted, so yeah, I already know. And so it's a slew of things, just like you said, cooking for yourself. Like you would, if you had a partner, you would cook for them, and it would be so easy. Like, yeah, let me cook for you. But just for yourself, you might try to eat out or do whatever. No, let's go ahead and cook this nice meal. Let's go to the store. Let's get this wine. Let's get pull out all the stops just for yourself, for you to enjoy it. Because you're worth that.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, and I journal a lot, and I also seek counseling. I'm the therapist who also has a therapist, so let that be known.
You're doing it right. It sounds like you're doing it right. Absolutely.
Trying.
Honestly, the thing I do, it's gonna sound real weird. Like I just will stand in the mirror and look at myself. Like, no, dead serious. Like I just
Mirror
look at
work.
myself, but I will not to, but I would just force myself to see me. Right? Like I'll be sounding so deep sometimes, and I don't be trying to sound deep, but just like, look, this is what you got to work with, brother. We here. Right,
Yeah.
and just be in that space for a couple of seconds, like not trying to avoid the troubled areas, just like, look, here we are. And just every now and then just remind yourself, like,
Definitely. Yeah.
this is who we are, this is what we got, and learn how to be okay with the person that you see there. And if you're not okay with them, then all right, what are we gonna do to fix that? Because otherwise, he ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
This is who
Right.
he's not going anywhere. So I got to learn to deal with him. So just every now and then, just stopping to do that is something that I do. Probably at least once a week. Probably a little more than I should, but I've started to like him a lot more, so I look at him more. So
Yeah, real quick. That's called mirror work. And I have delved into that myself a little bit. And you say, if you have certain affirmations you want to say, and you just hold the mirror in front of you, you look into your own eyes, and you just start to speak into your own self, like speak into you. Like we are the only people that really, 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 really know how to take care of us the way that we need to, because we know what we need, and we know what we want, and when we want it, and how we want it. And so when you can kind of give that thing to yourself, you're not looking so much on the outside from other people. And so you just kind of exude, some acceptance and some like, yeah, here I am. So, and it's not like that egotistical thing. It's just a overflow of something I can also share with other people, because I can also make or help them to feel that way, or point out things with them like, hey, well, you're this, you're that. Just how I talk to myself, I had to learn to speak to myself in a way that is more positive than that negative voice in my head. And so that exudes out of me when I'm around other people. That is self-love. But if I have to pull you down, shoot you down, try to bring you down a few notches, no, I dare to say that's not it.
Yeah. Thank you. Ashley, how do you,
Yeah.
you shared some earlier, but share some more.
Yeah. So first of all, let me jump on the mirror work, because I definitely did that and still do it. Like I said to y'all earlier, I have struggled with self-esteem. I struggled for a long time. I mean, it's always a struggle. I can't say I'm done. I'm still alive, so I'm still struggling, with it. But a lot of what I had to do when I was younger, and I had told myself all these things about, oh, I'm so ugly and nobody's ever going to love me, and I don't love me, and all this kind of stuff. And it only came from me. My parents are the most loving people ever. Nobody ever called me anything, but my name, But anyway, I had to stare at myself and, like you said, just confront, this is you. This is what you have, and what you have is enough. So I still do that from time to time. I also love getting dressed every day. Even in the pandemic, I still get dressed all the way down to my shoes, because that is part of my self-care. I love looking good, not because I'm narcissistic. I know I said I was a Leo, but I promise y'all I'm not a narcissist at all. But it's just something that I like to do for me, to celebrate myself. Don't look at me like that.
Yeah.
I see that. I see it.
Yeah, that's
I'm with Ashley on that one. I agree.
Yeah, this makes you feel good. But also, like somebody said earlier, living the way you want to live, and that's something that I've really been doing. Specifically, as I said, I'm 30 years old. I spend every weekend at my parents' house. I know I'm 30. I'm aware that we're supposed to not be all under our parents, but my parents won't be here forever. I won't be here forever. So I'm going to be there with those people who I love as much as I want to.
All right.
Period. So that's part of my self-care and self-love.
Absolutely. Making yourself a priority. I'm loving that. I want to point out some of the folks in the comments. We had Erin Hutchins saying that she's started a skincare regimen, which I've also tried to do the same. Loving that. I mean, you have to take care of but this is the only body you got. You got to take care of it. Ashley, you adorn it with these amazing outfits. You know, like you're taking care of your body is a means of self-love. I have Myrtle who says that she eats clean. Thank you for inspiring me on this journey of eating clean. 2 fitness classes a day. I'm not on your level yet, but we're gonna get there maybe. Yoga and investing in self, keeping all the health appointments. It's so important, absolutely, especially in this time of public health crisis. Be mindful, listen to your body, and take a moment, take a beat, and see what's going on to make sure that everything is going okay. So yeah, thank y'all for sharing that. All of you people in the comments and my panelists, it doesn't seem like we've talked, but we've been talking for like 45, 50 minutes, and we can continue going on and on. But I think we will kind of bring it to a close. If you will, please share some last parting words. What's the biggest nugget that you want people to take away from this conversation?
Unconditional positive regard for self. It overflows out to other people. You don't have to be egotistical or like feeling like you too much for anything. It's just unconditional positive regard for self. Period.
Love that. Thank you.
I think I would probably say a takeaway for me and for anyone else who wants to take it is just that the love that you have for yourself is enough, and you don't have to measure up to any other, standards of love, but that you are complete already. You don't need anything else to complete you. You already have it inside of you.
Word up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only thing I want to say is just kind of echo what I started with is, I grew up in church, so we, I knew a lot of scripture, and one of the scriptures that helped me to just deal with people better is one that says, "Speak the truth in love." Like, I'm a very truthful person, so learning how to speak the truth to yourself in love, and having but just being kind to yourself, right? Like, have enough grace for you to be able to persevere through whatever little situations might hold you back. So that's all I got.
Yeah, and I'm gonna ditto on that. That's my biggest thing. I might have missed it earlier, but that word kindness is it's a simple word. We hear it tossed around a lot, but it's very, very profound. And we might need to do a chapter change on kindness, but literally just being patient with yourself, doing small things for yourself. That will always come out, and other people will see that, and you'll see your relationships with other folks blossom and come out of that as well. So thank you all for sharing your stories and your insight. I learned some buzzwords and some phrases that I will definitely take on with me. That's what this whole thing is about. So yeah, I really appreciate that, you being part of this conversation. What we're gonna do now is we did have people join the conversation. And I'm so thankful for everyone who tuned in and watched. And now we're going to kind of shine the spotlight on you guys and focus on our giveaway. So if we want to bring up our first gift is from the Auburn Oil Booksellers. It's a gift pack These are my friends down in Auburn, Alabama, a fresh new bookstore. They've been open for about a year and a half or so. And they have donated a gift pack, which includes 2 books. So Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, The Joy of Being Online All the Effing Time by Jennifer McCartney. That's literally the name of the book. The Joy of Being Online All the Effing Time. And they also offered a complimentary coffee. And one of the things that they also donated, which I really love, and Jerusalem kind of alluded to it earlier, is a really cool journal. Do we have a photo of these things available? It's a really cool journal that they created, a notebook with a vinyl record as the cover. So you got some kind of cool style stuff going on there. I'm very grateful to the folks down at Auburn Oil Booksellers for that gift pack. And what we're going to do is we're going to spin our handy dandy spinning wheel of names here to get our first winner. So who's going to get this gift pack from Auburn Oil Booksellers? Looks like it's Taylor C. Congratulations. By all means, if you do win a gift tonight, make sure you reach out to us, or we'll reach out to you. Probably you should reach out to us. Email us at admin@highergroundsociety.org. And we'll drop that in the comments. But if your name is pulled tonight for a gift, make sure that you email us so that we can coordinate getting your gift to you. So that was the first one. The second giveaway gift is really great. It's a candle from Be Well Inner Sense Candle Collection. This is very, very special. I'm very glad we were able to connect with this person. It's by Dion Bryant Williams, who is a Stockton, Alabama native. So all these places, mind you, all the giveaways are from Alabama. So that's one of the great things about it. Stockton, Alabama native, currently based in Cumming, Georgia. Dion Bryant Williams is an author of the book Mirror, Mirror, Healing from the Inside and Out. Hello. And she's also an inner wellness coach. And I'm so grateful that she decided to offer a gift to the attendees of this event. And so the gift is going to be, you will be able to get one of these candles from her Inner Sense candle collection. I got to smell one of these candles over the weekend, and it was incredible. So you're in for a treat there. So yeah, let's spin the wheel. If we can, let's see who's going to get this candle giveaway. All right, it's Mary C. Yo. All right, folks. All right, so Taylor and Mary, please email admin@highergroundsociety.org to coordinate getting your gifts, and we'll get those to you as soon as we can. Especially with the pandemic and mail and everything being all crazy. But yes, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for commenting, contributing to the conversation. And what I'm going to do now is turn it over to our guests to let you know what they're working on. So first up, let's do in alphabetical order. Jerusalem.
Oh wow, okay. I just started Mental Health Monarchs. It's a psychoeducational course type of site where I help people with unhealed trauma from childhood, adults with mentally ill parents. You can reach me at sign up at mentalhealthmonarchs.org. You can reach me at Mental Health Monarchs on Facebook and Mental Health Monarchs on Instagram. Yeah. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Next, it'll be, I said alphabetical order, but now I'm like all twisted out in the game. I don't know. So, yeah, let's let you go next.
Yeah. I had the project that came out last year, Versus the World. You can check that out everywhere that you normally get music. Is there. You can check out my website, githeartist.com, for all the other stuff. I am working on some new music right now, so hopefully I'll be able to put that out sometime whenever it's finished. I don't know. I don't want to give no deadlines to myself because then I just won't hit them. But yeah, so just working on new music. So y'all just tap in with the music that's there at githeartist.com. You can follow me on all social media at githeartist. That's it.
That's right. Y'all see how you didn't put a deadline on himself? He's loving himself. I like that. He's radical self-love right there. Don't put any undue pressure.
I know myself. If I put the deadline, then I'm gonna screw it up. So I just look good. Just let it happen.
Good. Very good. Very good. All right. Last but not least, Ashley.
Yeah, so you can find my poetry and any information you need about me at my website, ashleymjonespoetry.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Ashberry813. And if you want to know about the nonprofit, the Magic City Poetry Festival, which will be doing virtual events this spring and fall, for that matter, follow us at www.magiccitypoetryfestival.org.
Brilliant. Thank you all again so much for joining me and having this conversation. It's so part of my self-love is understanding that people probably do like me and don't mind doing things with me. And so it was huge for me to ask for y'all to do this with me. I'm so glad y'all without unflinchingly just agreed to join, and I'm very, very appreciative of that. Thank you so much. Ashley, thank you for opening up with the poetry reading. I really liked you really set the tone and kind of ushered in the spirit of this conversation, so thank you so much for that. Also, I'd like to thank again our sponsors for our giveaways this evening, Auburn Oil Booksellers. Thank you so much for the gift pack, and Deion Bryant Williams, thank you so much for donating that candle giveaway. Also, you haven't seen this person, but they're definitely behind the scenes. One of my board members, Maven Beard, has been working and doing all the technological work. That takes off a tremendous amount of pressure for me to try to do the conversation and do this. I would not have been able to do this without Maven, so thank you so much, Maven. And also thank you, guests, for tuning in and listening to folks talk on a Thursday evening when you could have been watching Scandal reruns or something. I don't know. I really, really do appreciate you all for being a part of this conversation. I forgot to do some of the stuff that we're doing with Higher Ground Society, promo stuff, real quick. Patchwork Symphony, a multi-genre recording project, music album recording project, is currently going on. Visit the website highergroundsociety.org and then go to programs, and you'll be able to read about how you can submit your own original music. We are essentially paying for aspiring artists to do some recording in a professional recording studio. I've had a lot of fun with the artists we've worked with so far, and we want to get more folks from the North Alabama area. So Shelby County, well, actually, no, it's not even Shelby County. It goes all the way, like just the tip of the Black Belt, all the way up to Huntsville, and everywhere in between. North Alabama, we want to hear from you, so please submit to that project. South Alabama, we're coming for you soon enough. Hang tight. So there's that. The Higher Ground Society podcast is also in the same vein of these conversations where I'm talking with creatives and humanists, if you will, about their work. Everybody's from Alabama, and we just dropped the 2 latest podcast episodes this week on Tuesday and today, and the conversations are just like this. They're amazing, and we talk about the artists, their work, and how the process they went through, and just about their life and their hope for Alabama. And it's incredible and amazing. I love it so much. So please check that out as well on the website. And also just follow all of us on social media to keep abreast of what's going on and any developments that we have going on. And that's it. Oh, one last thing. I'm sorry. So a part of this whole experience, it's all about the arts, right? And I love music. The conversationalist and I, we've all curated a music playlist to go along with this whole series of conversations. So again, keep your eyes on our social media platform, on Higher Ground Society's social media platform tomorrow. And we're gonna drop a playlist focusing on with all the songs and the themes of being self-love. And so you will definitely want to tap into that so you can self-love on yourself tomorrow afternoon, all the way through the weekend, and throughout the rest of your life. It's a very lit playlist. Okay, and so yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for joining. Please join us in the spring for our next Chat for Change Love Out Loud conversation, which will be on relational love. So we're talking about how we love our friends, our family, our lovers, our love things, whatever you want to, people in your life. We're going to talk about that. Please look out for announcements on when that date is going to come up. It's going to be in the spring. Thank you so much. Again, thank you, panelists. And you guys have a great night.